Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to use this particular chunk of code, which is in the description below, to talk about a couple things. One thing we're going to talk about is basic object-oriented design, and then we're going to talk about our constructor, and then creating methods, specifically methods with return types and what that means. So let's go ahead and take a look at the code. I have this set up in a lecture AP package. The imports, I've imported scanner class from the utility package from Java. I've created the class name human, and I've created some fields at the class level. So these are global variables. If you don't know what global variable is, make sure you find out. Google it real quick. It's pretty easy. And then we have int age, string name, string eyeColor, and double centimeters tall. So hopefully these make sense to you. What I did when I created the class was I thought, okay, if we're going to be creating objects of the human class, they should have some identifiers. Now, obviously there's a lot more than this, but in the hope of keeping it as simple as possible, I just created these 4 identifiers for human objects. Looking below, I've created a constructor. Now I know it's a constructor because it starts with a capital letter and it's named the same exact thing as the class is named. You'll notice that this constructor method requires 4 parameters anytime one of these objects are created. So we'll have int currentAge, string eyes, double height, and string name. So different types of variables. And then we'll see that we use this to assign to these class level variables. If I click on this in Eclipse, you notice that highlights. So this class level variable, or this field, age, is assigned the value currentAge, and that's whatever's passed to this constructor in this parameter. eyeColor, same thing here. eyeColor is assigned the value of eyes, which is in this parameter, and eyeColor is one of the fields in our class level line there. cmTall, right here, is assigned the value height, which comes through this parameter. And then you'll notice something a little bit funny here. Now, even though I have name set here, I also put it in one of my parameters here, which gives me sort of an error that I wouldn't have noticed had I just been programming real quick. So what basically will happen is that this will be assigned whatever this already is, and it'll be a local variable, which will mean we won't be able to talk about it later on down. So what we should do to ever fix an error like that is make sure we give it a different value. So I'm just going to go ahead and say first and get rid of that name. And now when I do that and I correct my error here, you'll see that name will now highlight the field and first name will now highlight the parameter variable. So we can get rid of this little error logic here. Now, what I wanted to cover real quickly, and we'll continue talking about this in later videos, but what I wanted to cover real quickly is I have a couple errors down here. And it's with these 2 methods. I have public int getAge and I have public string getName. In every method, the keyword public or private is an access modifier. Can this method be accessed outside of this class? If so, public. If not, then private. And then the second in here, int, we have usually seen as void, as in up here. And what that means is this should return an integer of some sort, so a whole number. And then getAge is simply the name. Now, because I wanted this to access some information, particularly from this class, it's known as an accessor method, sometimes also referred to as a getter method. Now, typically, proper convention states that we name our accessor methods something with set, and our mutator, or get, I'm sorry, and then our mutator methods things that change something to set because we set the values. So accessor, get, mutator, set. So the problem here, if we look, is that this method must return a result of type int. If I look down at here, the error correction reads this method must return a result type of string. And the reason why they're different is because right here, access modifier, public, return type string, and then of course get name. So what we need to do is we need to return either an integer like that, but the problem with this is every time we call this method, it'll just give us the value 6. Or we could return what our intention was, and that's the variable age at the class level. You notice again that it's blue. If I click on this, it's referring to that age, which is the same variable as this up here, which is of course the same variable as our class level variable. So anytime we talk about age so far as this class is written, it refers to that one very singular variable or field at the class level. Now the intention of this was to return the name. So anytime I go, hey, what's your name, or get name, it'll return the name. So we need to return name, and then the error will be gone for that. So again, real quick, I know it's a constructor if it starts with a capital letter and it's named the same thing as the class, and my fields or my class level variables are at the class level before and outside of any method whatsoever. This is at the class level. Typically we like to keep them up at the top of the class. You can throw them in between methods, but that's not a good practice. It's very hard to problem solve code and share code with others if you're just throwing variables anywhere. And we looked at some other methods, our void methods, which don't return anything. Basically that's like an action. That's me telling you to jump, and you just simply jump. Doesn't matter how high or anything like that, just jump. Now a getter method or an accessor method that returns some sort of type won't have void, it'll have some kind of data type there. Now in this case an int. This is a lot like me asking a real human, hey, how old are you? And they return some number to me, oh, I'm 16, right? So that's a getter or an accessor method. And of course we learned hopefully that you can use accessor methods or getter methods that return different types of information. In this case, this one's a string. So if we return a name, it should say, oh, my name's Bob or Joe or whatever, based off the object's name. So hopefully you get that. Accessor, getters, mutators, setters, and constructor methods.